when the pastry chef became a princess. The brutal truth of what happened when her family pushed too far and a billionaire decided enough was enough. Have you ever been invisible in your own family? Zara Williams was, until the night her sister's wedding became a battlefield. What happens when you spend your whole life trying to earn love from people who will never give it? Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this journey travels. Because what you're about to hear, it's about the moment everything breaks and what it takes to finally walk away. In fact, the parking lot smelled like expensive perfume and car exhaust. Zara stood between a Mercedes and a BMW, her bridesmaid dress, powder blue, size too small, chosen by her sister, digging into her ribs with every breath. Mascara tracked down her cheeks in ugly lines. Her phone buzzed in her hand. Minjun's name lit up the screen. She didn't answer. Inside the venue, 200 guests were dancing to a live band her parents had flown in from New York. Her sister Emily was probably cutting the 7-tier cake Zara had spent 3 days perfecting. White chocolate ganache with raspberry compote, edible gold leaf on every tier, a sugar flower garden cascading down one side, each petal painted by hand. Nobody inside knew who made it. Her mother had made sure of that. Zara's thumb hovered over Minjun's name. She could call him. She could ask him to come get her. But that would make this real. That would mean admitting that after 28 years of trying, she still didn't matter to these people. The phone rang again. This time she answered. "Where are you?" His voice was quiet, controlled. The way it always was when he was angry. "I'm fine." "Zara." "I said I'm fine." Silence. Then, "I'm 10 minutes away." She should have told him not to come. Should have said she could handle this herself. But the truth was, she couldn't. She'd been handling things herself her whole life, and it had gotten her exactly nowhere. "Okay," she whispered. The line went dead. Zara looked down at her dress. There was a stain near the hem, strawberry puree from this morning's prep work. She tried to hide it with the way she stood during photos, angling her body just right. Not that it mattered. They'd cut her out of most of the shots anyway. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Stand in the back, Zara. You're blocking Emily." 8 months ago, she wouldn't have called Minjun. 8 months ago, she didn't even know him. She'd just been the invisible pastry chef, the family disappointment, the daughter who chose baking over law school and had been paying for it ever since. 8 months earlier. The gala was the kind of event Zara usually only saw in magazines. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, women in gowns that cost more than her rent. She was in the kitchen, finishing a dessert tower that had taken her team 6 hours to assemble. "We need 2 more plates of the chocolate situation," Marcus, the head caterer, barked at her. "Table 12. Apparently someone important just sat down." Zara grabbed 2 plates, each one holding a deconstructed chocolate tart. Her design, her recipe, her technique. She'd spent weeks perfecting the tempered chocolate sail that curved over each plate like a wave. She pushed through the kitchen doors and into the dining room. Table 12 was in the corner, half hidden by a marble column. 3 men in dark suits, all looking at their phones. She approached from the side, the way Marcus had taught her. Invisible, efficient, gone before they noticed. She set down the first plate. "Thank you." The voice came from her left. She turned. The man looking at her wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at her, and something about his attention felt different. Not the way men usually looked at her. The quick scan, the dismissal. This was focused, curious. "You made this?" he asked. Korean accent, slight, expensive watch, the kind of face that didn't need to smile to be attractive. "Yes," Zara said. She set down the second plate in front of the man beside him. "It's beautiful." "Thank you." She should have left. Marcus was watching from across the room, making the hurry-up gesture with his hand. "What's your name?" "Zara, excuse me, I should—" "Sit down." She blinked. "I can't, I'm working." "Then come back when you're not." "Sir, I don't think—" "Minjun," he said. "Not Sir, Minjun Park." The name meant nothing to her then. She found out later, scrolling through Google at 2 a.m. in her apartment, that Minjun Park was the kind of person who owned buildings, not apartments. The kind of person who had entire floors of office towers and a Wikipedia page that made her feel like she'd imagined their conversation. But in that moment, she just nodded and walked away. She didn't come back that night, or think she'd ever see him again. She was wrong. 2 weeks later, Marcus called her into his office. I'm putting you on a private event, he said, not looking up from his computer. Next Friday, small dinner party. 8 guests. Client specifically requested you. Me? You. Apparently someone was impressed with your chocolate thing. Zara's stomach twisted. Who's the client? Marcus finally looked at her. Minjun Park. And before you ask, yes, that Minjun Park. So don't screw this up. She didn't screw it up. She showed up to a penthouse in Tribeca with her mise en place organized to the gram, her knives sharp, her head clear. The kitchen was bigger than her apartment. She cooked a 5-course menu she'd been designing in her head for 3 years, the kind of food she never got to make at the catering company, where everything was safe and simple and designed not to offend anyone. Minjun ate every bite. When his guests left, he came into the kitchen. She was cleaning her station, moving fast, trying not to look at him. You want a drink? He asked. I should get going. Zara. The way he said her name made her stop. Sit down. This time she did. He poured her a glass of wine she couldn't pronounce, then leaned against the counter across from her. Why aren't you running your own restaurant? Money, experience, reality? That's not a real answer. She took a sip of wine. It was better than anything she'd ever tasted. I'm not good enough yet. You're lying. Excuse me? You're lying, he said again. Not about the money, that's probably true, but you're good enough. You've been good enough for a while, so what's the real reason? Zara set down her glass. You don't know me. Not yet. Something in her chest tightened. She stood up. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll send you an invoice. I'll call you again, he said. You don't have my number. I'll find it. He did. Over the next 3 months, Minjun hired her 6 more times. Private dinners, corporate events, a birthday party for someone she'd definitely seen in a magazine. Every time, he paid double her rate and left a tip that made her check the decimal point twice. Every time, he asked her to stay afterward. They talked about food mostly. He asked about her techniques, her training, where she learned to work with chocolate. She asked why he cared. He never gave a straight answer. You're good at what you do, he said once, watching her plate a dessert. Why do you act like you're not? I don't act like anything. Yes, you do. You apologize every time you speak. You stand like you're trying to take up less space. You're talented, Zara. Stop pretending you're not. She didn't know what to say to that. Nobody had ever talked to her that way. Like her self-doubt was something she chose, not something that had been built into her brick by brick. That night, after everyone left, she told him about her family. Not everything, just pieces. Her sister the lawyer, her brother the surgeon, her parents who still introduced her as our youngest, she's figuring things out. The way they looked at her like she was a problem they hadn't solved yet. Minjun listened, didn't interrupt. When she finished, he said, They're wrong about you. You don't know them. I don't need to. She wanted to believe him. But believing him would mean accepting that she'd wasted years trying to prove herself to people who would never see her. And she wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Her sister's engagement party was on a Tuesday. Zara found out about it on Thursday. She was at her parents' house, dropping off a birthday cake for her father, red velvet with cream cheese frosting, his favorite. Her mother was in the kitchen, on the phone, laughing about something. The flowers are already ordered, her mother was saying. No, the big centerpieces, for the engagement party. Yes, this Tuesday. Zara stood in the doorway, cake box in her hands. Her mother saw her and went very still. Then, I'll call you back. She hung up. Emily's engaged? Zara asked. Yes, we were going to tell you. When? Her mother sighed, the way she always did when Zara asked inconvenient questions. We wanted to wait until things were finalized. You know how you get. How I get. Emotional. We didn't want to stress Emily out. Zara set the cake on the counter. When's the party? Tuesday. It's just family, Zara. Very small. I'm family. Of course you are. But Emily specifically asked for something intimate. Just her closest people. You understand? She didn't understand, or she understood perfectly, and that was worse. I made Dad a cake, Zara said. That's sweet. I'll make sure he gets it. Zara left. She sat in her car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, breathing carefully. Then she called Minjun. He answered on the first ring. Are you busy Saturday? She asked. No. Why? I need to cook something. Something big. Can I use your kitchen? Silence. Then, of course. What's wrong? Nothing. I just need to cook. She showed up at his penthouse at 6 a.m. with 2 bags of groceries and a notebook full of recipes she'd been hoarding for years. She cooked for 12 hours straight. Minjun watched from the breakfast bar, working on his laptop, occasionally asking questions. She made braised short ribs that fell apart with a fork, saffron risotto, a salad with roasted beets and goat cheese and a vinaigrette she'd been perfecting for months, chocolate soufflés that rose exactly the way they were supposed to. When she finally stopped, the kitchen looked like a war zone. Minjun came around the counter and stood next to her, looking at the spread of food on the table. "This is what you do when you're upset," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. Are you going to tell me why you're upset?" "My sister's engaged. She's having a party. I'm not invited." He turned to face her. "Why not?" "Because I'm not part of her closest people." Her voice cracked on the last word. She hated herself for it. Minjun was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up a fork and took a bite of the risotto. "This is perfect." "It's okay." "Zara." He waited until she looked at him. "It's perfect. And you know it. Stop letting them make you small." She wanted to argue, wanted to defend her family, explain that it was more complicated than he understood, but she was tired of defending people who never defended her. "Stay for dinner," she said instead. They ate everything, talked until midnight. When she finally left, Minjun walked her to the elevator. "Next time they do something like this," he said, "call me first. Not after." "Why?" "Because you shouldn't be alone when it happens." The elevator doors closed before she could answer. 7. Emily's engagement party happened without her. Zara saw the photos on Instagram, her mother in a green dress, her father looking proud, Emily glowing in white, her brother Marcus holding a champagne glass mid-toast. One photo showed the dessert table, store-bought macarons arranged badly. Zara stared at that photo for a long time. Then she archived the whole app and went back to work. The wedding planning consumed everything. Emily called every day with questions Zara couldn't answer. Did she know a florist? Could she make the cake? What about cupcakes for the shower? Could she handle both? "I'll pay you," Emily said in the tone of someone offering a favor. "You're my sister." "I know, but I want to make it official, professional." Zara said yes, because some stupid part of her still believed that this was it. This was how she'd finally prove herself. She'd make Emily's wedding perfect, and her parents would see her, really see her, and understand that she wasn't a failure, that she'd chosen this life because she was good at it, not because she couldn't do anything else. She worked on the cake for weeks, design sketches, flavor tests, structural calculations. She pitched 3 options to Emily, who picked the most expensive one, then asked if Zara could do it for free since they were family. Zara did it for half price. She should have charged triple. The bridal shower was first. Zara made 200 cupcakes, vanilla bean with champagne frosting, decorated with edible pearls. She arrived early to set up, stayed late to clean up. Emily hugged her once, said these are so cute, and spent the rest of the party taking photos with her bridesmaids. Zara wasn't a bridesmaid. Emily had 6. Sorority sisters, law school friends, her college roommate. When Zara asked why she wasn't included, Emily said, "I just thought you'd be too busy with the cake and everything. I didn't want to stress you out." The same excuse her mother had used. Zara went home that night and told Minjun everything. They'd been seeing each other regularly by then, once, sometimes twice a week. Not dating exactly, something else. He'd hire her for an event, they'd end up talking for hours, or he'd text her about a restaurant he thought she should try, and they'd meet for dinner. It was easy with him, uncomplicated. He asked about her work, listened when she talked, never made her feel like she was too much or not enough. "Stop doing things for free," he said, after she finished the story about the cupcakes. "She's my sister. She's taking advantage of you." "You don't understand. This is just how my family works." "Then your family works wrong." She wanted to be angry at him for that, but she couldn't because he was right. 2 months before the wedding, Emily called about the bridesmaid dresses. "So I know you're not technically a bridesmaid," she said, "but I thought you could still wear the dress for photos and stuff, just so we all match." "What color?" "Powder blue. I'll text you the link." The dress cost $400. It was a size 6. Zara was a size 12. She called the boutique. They didn't have it in her size. They could order it, but it would take 8 weeks and cost an extra $100 for rush alterations. She bought it anyway. When it arrived, she couldn't zip it up. She tried losing weight, Stopped eating bread, ran every morning, counted every calorie. Lost 8 pounds in 3 weeks and felt dizzy every time she stood up too fast. The dress still didn't fit. She called Emily. "Just get it altered," Emily said. "It's not a big deal. It doesn't fit at all." "Zara, I don't have time for this. Just figure it out." The alterations cost another $200. The seamstress had to add panels to the sides and let out the seams. When Zara picked it up, it fit, but barely. She couldn't breathe right, couldn't sit down without something digging into her skin. She wore it anyway, because that's what you did. You made yourself smaller, quieter, less. You squeezed into spaces that weren't built for you and pretended it didn't hurt. 3 weeks before the wedding, Minjun asked her to dinner. Not for an event, just dinner. They went to a place in the West Village. Small, low-lit, the kind of restaurant where people proposed. She felt underdressed in jeans and a sweater. "You look nervous," Minjun said, after they ordered. "I'm not." "Zara," she sighed. "Fine. I'm nervous. Happy?" "Why?" "Because this feels like a date." "It is a date." Her brain short-circuited. "What? You thought we were just friends?" I don't know what I thought." Minjun leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I've been trying to figure you out for 6 months. You're one of the most talented people I've ever met, and you walk around like you're apologizing for existing. Why?" "I don't do that." "Yes, you do. You did it when you sat down just now. You made yourself smaller so you wouldn't take up too much space at the table." She had done that. She always did that. "I don't know how to be different," she said quietly. "Then let me show you." The waiter brought their food. They ate slowly, talking about nothing important. Books, travel, a documentary he'd watched about chocolate production in Ecuador. Normal things. Easy things. When they left, he walked her to her car. "Your sister's wedding is soon," he said. 3 weeks. "Are you ready?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "No, but it doesn't matter. I'll get through it." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. She's my sister." "She treats you like staff." "That's not—" She stopped. Because it was true. Emily had been texting her all week about last-minute changes to the cake design, asking if Zara could make extra desserts for the rehearsal dinner, wondering if she'd mind helping set up the venue the morning of the wedding. Not asking. Assuming. "After the wedding," Minjun said, "I want you to think about something." "What?" "Whether these people deserve you." She didn't answer. Couldn't. He kissed her cheek and left. Zara sat in her car for 20 minutes, hands shaking, before she could drive home. The week of the wedding was chaos. Final fittings, last-minute changes, Emily having a breakdown because the florist got the wrong shade of pink. Zara spent 4 days in the kitchen, baking and assembling and decorating. She worked 16-hour days, survived on coffee and spite. The cake was perfect. 7 tiers exactly like Emily wanted. The sugar flowers took her 12 hours alone. She delivered it the morning of the wedding, set it up in the venue herself. The wedding coordinator looked at it and said, "Wow, did you make this?" "Yes." "It's gorgeous. Who should I credit?" Zara opened her mouth, closed it. "The family made it." The coordinator nodded and walked away. Zara stared at the cake for a long time. Then she went to get dressed. The ceremony was beautiful. Emily looked perfect. White dress, perfect hair, perfect smile. Their father cried when he walked her down the aisle. Their mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Zara sat in the back row. During the reception, she circulated with a glass of champagne she wasn't drinking, trying to look like she belonged. People kept asking if she was a friend of the bride or groom. When she said she was the bride's sister, they looked surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize Emily had another sister." She heard it 4 times. The speeches started after dinner. Their father went first, talked about watching Emily grow up, how proud he was of everything she'd accomplished. Then Marcus, her brother, told a story about Emily's first day of law school. Then Emily's maid of honor. Then the best man. Nobody mentioned Zara. She stood near the bar, watching her sister glow under all that attention, and felt something inside her finally break. Her mother appeared at her elbow. "Zara, we need to talk." "About what?" "Your father and I have decided to sell the house." Zara blinked. "What?" "We're downsizing, moving to a condo in the city. We need you to clear out your old room. All your things need to be gone by next month." "I haven't lived there in 10 years. "Exactly. So it shouldn't be a problem." You're telling me this now? At Emily's wedding? Her mother's expression went cold. Don't make a scene, Zara. This is Emily's day. I'm not making a... Just handle it. And try to smile, would you? You look miserable. She walked away. Zara stood there, glass in her hand, surrounded by 200 people who didn't know her name. She looked at the cake. Her cake. Sitting on its table, already half destroyed. She looked at Emily dancing with her new husband, laughing. She looked at her mother talking to a group of relatives, gesturing with her wine glass. She set down her champagne and walked out. That's how she ended up in the parking lot, mascara streaming, dress too tight, phone in her hand. That's how she ended up calling Minjun. That's how everything changed. Minjun's car pulled into the parking lot 12 minutes later. Black sedan, tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that costs more than most people made in a year. Zara watched it approach, her arms wrapped around herself even though it wasn't cold. He got out without turning off the engine. No jacket, just a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked at her for exactly 3 seconds, then closed the distance between them. Get in the car. I can't just leave. Yes, you can. My purse is inside, my keys. I'll buy you new keys. He opened the passenger door. Get in. She got in. The interior smelled like leather and something else she couldn't name. Expensive cologne, maybe. Or just money. He pulled out of the parking lot without asking where she wanted to go. They drove in silence for 10 minutes. Zara stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Her reflection in the glass looked destroyed. Makeup smeared, eyes swollen, hair falling out of the pins she'd spent an hour arranging that morning. Where are we going? She asked finally. My place. I should go home. No. Minjun. You're not going back to your apartment tonight looking like that. You'll spiral. I've seen you spiral. He wasn't wrong. She would have gone home, opened a bottle of wine, and spent the next 6 hours replaying every interaction from the wedding until she'd convinced herself it was all her fault somehow. I need to get my stuff, she said. My purse. I'll send someone tomorrow. You can't just send someone to my sister's wedding venue. Watch me. She should have argued, should have insisted on doing things herself the way she always did. But she was so tired of fighting, of trying, of caring about people who would never care back. They told me to move out, she said quietly. Minjun's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What? My parents. They're selling the house. They told me tonight, at the wedding. Said I need to clear out my old room by next month. You haven't lived there in a decade. That's what I said. He was quiet for a moment. Then, what else happened? Everything. Nothing. The same things that had been happening her whole life, just concentrated into 6 hours of humiliation. They didn't mention me in any of the speeches, she said. Not once. My dad talked about how proud he was of Emily and Marcus. My mom showed everyone pictures of Emily's law school graduation. Nobody said my name. Did you expect them to? The question hit harder than it should have. Because no, she hadn't expected it. She'd just hoped. Like an idiot. There were family photos after the ceremony, she continued. Formal portraits. The photographer kept trying to include me, but my mom kept pulling me out of frame, said I was blocking Emily. Then later, during the reception, someone asked my mom how many children she had. She said 2. Minjun's jaw worked. He didn't say anything. The cake was perfect, Zara said. Everyone kept asking who made it. The coordinator asked me directly, and I told her the family made it, because that's what Emily wanted, credit without my name attached. Why would you agree to that? Because I thought... Her voice cracked. She took a breath, tried again. I thought if I did everything right, if I made everything perfect, they'd finally see me. That maybe this time would be different. And was it? My mother told me I looked miserable, said I was ruining Emily's day by existing in the wrong mood. They pulled up to his building. The doorman opened her door before she could reach for the handle. She followed Minjun through the lobby, into the elevator, up to the penthouse. The same route she'd taken dozens of times for events, for cooking sessions, for late-night conversations that never felt like enough. But this time was different. This time she wasn't here to work. He unlocked the door and held it open. Go take a shower. I'll find you something to wear. Minjun, shower. Now. She obeyed because she didn't have the energy to argue. The bathroom was all marble and glass, twice the size of her bedroom. She peeled off the bridesmaid dress, stupid, expensive, too-tight dress, and left it in a heap on the floor. Stood under water so hot it hurt. She cried. Really cried, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and ugly, the kind she'd been holding back for 8 months, maybe longer. Years, probably. Her whole life. When she finally emerged, there was a t-shirt and sweatpants folded on the counter. His clothes, obviously. The shirt hung to her knees. She found him in the kitchen, pouring tea. "Sit," he said. She sat at the breakfast bar, the same spot where she'd sat dozens of times before. But everything felt different now. Exposed. Like she'd finally let him see the parts of herself she'd been hiding. He set a cup in front of her. "Drink." "I'm fine." "Zara." She drank. It was chamomile, sweet and floral. Not her favorite, but warm. Minjun leaned against the counter across from her, arms crossed. "Tell me what you want to do." "About what?" "About them. Your family. Because you have options." "Like what?" "Like never speaking to them again." She almost laughed. "I can't do that." "Why not?" "Because they're my family." "So? So you don't just cut off your family?" "Yes, you do. When they treat you like this." He pushed off the counter, started pacing. "You spend 8 months telling me how they make you feel worthless, and you keep going back. You make cakes for free. You wear dresses that don't fit. You stand in the back at family photos. Why?" "Because I love them." "Do they love you?" The question sat between them like a physical thing, heavy, unavoidable. "I don't know," she whispered. "Then stop acting like you owe them something. It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple." He stopped pacing, turned to face her. "You think if you work hard enough, sacrifice enough, make yourself small enough, they'll finally appreciate you, but they won't. People like that don't change. They'll take everything you give them and ask for more, and you'll give it because you're desperate for them to love you back. That's not, isn't it?" She wanted to argue, wanted to defend her parents, explain that he didn't understand family dynamics, that blood meant something, but every word he said was true, and they both knew it. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. "Just walk away?" "Yes." "And then what?" "I have no one." "You have me." The words hung in the air. Zara stared at him, this man she'd known for 8 months, this man who'd seen her at her worst and never flinched. "You don't mean that," she said. "Yes, I do." "Minjun, we've never even—" "I know what we are." He moved closer, sat on the stool next to her. "I've known for a while. Question is, do you?" Her heart was doing something complicated in her chest. "I don't know what we are." "Then let me be clear. I want you, not as a chef, not as someone I hire for events. I want you." "Why?" "Because you're brilliant, because you're talented, because every time I watch you work, I see someone who should be running her own restaurant, not making free cakes for people who don't appreciate her." He paused. "Because for 8 months, you've been the most interesting person I've met, and I'm tired of pretending I don't want more." Zara's hands were shaking. She set down her tea before she dropped it. "I'm a mess. I know. I don't have anything figured out. My career's going nowhere. My family hates me. I live in a studio apartment with a broken stove. I don't care." "You should care. She gestured vaguely at him, at the penthouse, at everything he represented. "You're you. If you say you're just anything, I'm going to lose it." She closed her mouth. "You think I care about money?" he asked. "About status? I have enough money. I don't need more. What I need is someone who challenges me, someone who makes me think, someone who isn't impressed by any of this." He gestured at the penthouse. "Because they're too focused on their own work to care about mine." "I care about your work. You care about what I do, not what I have. There's a difference." He reached over, took her hand. His fingers were warm. "Stay tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what happens next." "I can't stay here." "Why not?" Because it felt too big, too fast. Because accepting his help felt like admitting she couldn't handle things herself. Because if she stayed, it would mean something, and she wasn't sure she was ready for what that something might be. "Because it scares you," Minjun finished. "Yes. Good. You should be scared. This is the part where you choose yourself over them. That's terrifying, but you have to do it anyway." She looked at their hands, his fingers laced through hers. "I don't know how." "I'll show you." She didn't answer, just sat there, in his kitchen, wearing his clothes, feeling like her entire life was cracking open. Finally, she nodded. He squeezed her hand once, then stood. I'll make up the guest room. Minjun, guest room, Zara. We're not doing anything tonight except making sure you get some sleep. She should have been relieved, should have appreciated his restraint, but part of her, a small, reckless part she usually ignored, wished he'd asked for more. She followed him down the hall. The guest room was simple: king bed, dark furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He pulled back the covers, checked that there were towels in the bathroom, acted like having her here was the most normal thing in the world. "Anything you need? I'm down the hall," he said. "Okay." He turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing, leaving the wedding. They don't deserve you there. They're going to be angry. Let them." He closed the door behind him. Zara stood in the middle of the room, alone for the first time since the parking lot. She looked at the bed, expensive sheets, too many pillows. She looked at the window, at the city lights spreading out below. She thought about the wedding still happening across town. Emily cutting the cake, her parents laughing with relatives, Marcus giving another toast. They'd probably noticed she was gone by now. Probably assumed she'd left early, too emotional to handle the party. They were right, in a way. She was too emotional, too hurt, too done with pretending any of this was normal. She climbed into bed. The sheets were soft, cool against her skin. She closed her eyes and waited for sleep. It didn't come. An hour later, she got up and walked down the hall. Minjun's door was cracked open, light spilling into the hallway. She knocked softly. "Come in." He was sitting in bed, laptop open, reading something. He looked up when she entered, didn't seem surprised. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No." "Want to talk about it?" She shook her head. Can I stay here?" He closed the laptop, set it aside. "Yeah." She climbed into bed next to him, not touching, just close. He turned off the light, and they lay there in the dark. "Thank you," she said after a while. "For what?" "For coming to get me. For not asking questions. For—" She paused. "For being here. Always," he said. She fell asleep like that, next to someone who saw her as more than a disappointment, more than a failed daughter, more than invisible. When she woke up, morning light was streaming through the windows. Minjun was already awake, sitting up with his laptop, working. She watched him for a moment, the concentration on his face, the way he frowned at the screen. "What time is it?" she asked. 9. I let you sleep." She sat up, rubbed her eyes. "I should go home." "Why?" "Because I can't just stay here indefinitely. You can do whatever you want." He closed the laptop, turned to face her. "But if you're asking my opinion, I think you should stay until we figure out your next move." "My next move?" "Your family, your apartment, your career, all of it. I don't need you to fix my life. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to help you fix it yourself." He paused. "When's the last time someone helped you without expecting something in return?" She didn't have an answer for that. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She'd forgotten about it, forgotten it was even there. 7 missed calls. 12 texts, all from her mother. She opened the texts. "Where did you go?" "Zara, this is unacceptable. Call me immediately. You embarrassed this entire family by leaving early. Emily is devastated. I hope you're happy. Call me back. Now." The last text had come through 10 minutes ago. "Your father and I need to talk to you. Come to the house tomorrow at 10 a.m. Zara stared at the screen. Minjun leaned over, read the messages. "You're not going," he said. "I have to." "No, you don't. They're my parents. They're people who've spent your entire life making you feel worthless. You don't owe them a conversation." "Yes, I do. I left their daughter's wedding without saying goodbye. I owe them an explanation. You owe them nothing." His voice was sharp now, frustrated. "Zara, listen to me. If you go to that house tomorrow, they're going to tear you apart. They're going to tell you how selfish you are, how ungrateful, how you ruined Emily's special day. And you're going to apologize because that's what you do. You're going to make yourself smaller and quieter and promise to do better, and nothing will change. You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because it's happened before, hasn't it?" It had. So many times she'd lost count. Every argument ended the same way. Her apologizing, them accepting with barely concealed disappointment, everything going back to the way it was. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. "Just ignore them?" "Yes, block their numbers, don't answer their texts, move on." "I can't do that." "Why not?" "Because—" She stopped. Because why? Because they were family? Because she still hoped things would change? Because walking away meant admitting that 28 years of trying had been for nothing? I need to at least talk to them, she said finally. I need closure. You won't get closure from people like that. Maybe not. But I need to try. Minjun was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. Fine. But I'm coming with you. What? No. Yes. Minjun, this is between me and my family. And I'm not letting you walk into that alone. He stood up, started pacing. You want to go? Fine. We'll go. But we're doing it my way. What does that mean? It means you're not apologizing. You're not making excuses. You're going to tell them exactly what you think, and then you're going to leave. And if they say one thing, one single thing, that crosses the line, I'm ending the conversation. Understood? She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she could handle this herself. But the truth was, she wasn't sure she could. Every time she tried to stand up to her parents, she folded. Years of conditioning, of being told she was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, had taught her to back down. Okay, she said finally, but you have to promise not to what? Not to intimidate them. He raised an eyebrow. I'm not promising that. Minjun, they've been intimidating you your whole life. It's their turn. She should have argued more, should have set boundaries, explained that she needed to handle this her own way. But part of her, the part that was still hurt and angry and done with being invisible, wanted to see what would happen if she showed up with someone who actually believed in her. Fine, she said. Tomorrow at 10. Tomorrow at 10, he repeated. They spent the rest of the day preparing, not talking about the meeting exactly, but circling around it. Minjun worked from home, occasionally glancing at her like he was making sure she was still there. Zara tried to work on her laptop, answering emails, checking her calendar, but couldn't focus. Around 3, she finally asked the question that had been bothering her since the night before. Why are you doing this? He looked up from his computer. Doing what? This. All of it. You barely know me. I know you well enough. That's not an answer. He closed his laptop, gave her his full attention. You want the truth? Yes. I've been watching people my entire life, watching how they move through the world, what they value, what they're willing to sacrifice. Most people are predictable. They want money, status, validation. Easy to understand, easy to predict. He paused. You're not like that. You care about your work. You care about doing things right, and you let people walk all over you because you think that's what you're supposed to do. That's what makes you interesting. You think I'm interesting because I'm a doormat? I think you're interesting because you're talented and don't realize it. Because you've been told your whole life that you're not good enough, and you still show up and do the work anyway. That takes strength. I don't feel strong. You will. That night she couldn't sleep again. She lay in the guest room, her room now, apparently, and thought about what would happen tomorrow. Tried to imagine the conversation, the things her parents would say, tried to imagine herself not apologizing. She couldn't picture it. Around midnight, her phone buzzed, another text from her mother. Zara, if you don't show up tomorrow, there will be consequences. She stared at the message. Consequences. Like she was a child being threatened with punishment. She texted back, I'll be there. Then she blocked the number. It felt reckless, dangerous, like cutting a rope while still hanging onto it, but also necessary. She got up, walked to Minjun's room. This time she didn't knock, just opened the door and climbed into bed next to him. He didn't ask questions, just moved over to give her space, then pulled her close. Tomorrow's going to be bad, she said. I know. They're going to say terrible things. Probably. And I'm going to want to give in. I won't let you. She pressed her face into his shoulder. I'm scared. Good. That means you're finally choosing yourself. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, and for the first time in weeks, Zara didn't dream about failing. Morning came too fast. She woke to Minjun already dressed, dark suit, white shirt, the kind of outfit that meant business. He looked at her and said, Get ready, we leave in 30 minutes. She showered, dressed in the only clothes she had, jeans and a sweater from 2 days ago. Looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone who looked exactly like she felt, tired, scared, ready to break. You look fine, Minjun said from the doorway. I look like I haven't slept in 3 days. You look like someone who's done being nice to people who don't deserve it. He handed her a cup of coffee. Drink this. We're going to need it. The drive to her parents' house took 40 minutes. Zara spent the entire time staring out the window, trying not to panic. Minjun drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the center console near hers. Not quite touching, but close enough to remind her he was there. They pulled up to the house at 9:58, the same house where she'd grown up, where she'd spent 18 years trying to be good enough. It looked exactly the same. White exterior, perfect lawn, flowers in neat rows. "Last chance to change your mind," Minjun said. "I'm not changing my mind." "Good." They got out of the car, walked up the driveway together. Zara's hands were shaking, so she shoved them in her pockets. She knocked. Her mother opened the door, took one look at Minjun and frowned. "Who is this?" she asked. "Minjun Park," Zara said. "He's with me." "This is a family conversation, Zara. He stays, or I leave." Her mother's expression went tight. "Fine. Come in." They followed her into the living room. Her father was already there, sitting in his usual chair. Emily was on the couch, still in her silk robe from the night before. Marcus stood by the window, arms crossed. Everyone stared at Minjun. "Sit down, Zara," her father said. "I'll stand." "Zara, say what you need to say. We're not staying long." Her mother's jaw tightened. "You embarrassed this family last night. You left your sister's wedding without a word. Do you have any idea how that looked?" "I don't care how it looked." "Well, you should care. Emily was humiliated. Everyone was asking where you went. Were they? Or did nobody notice because I don't matter?" "Don't be dramatic," her father said. "We're not doing this." "Doing what? Having an actual conversation?" Zara's voice was shaking, but she kept going. "You told me to clear out my room at Emily's wedding. You couldn't wait one day?" "We needed to tell you at some point. You needed to tell me in private, like a normal person, but you didn't because you don't think about me at all." "That's not true," her mother said, but she didn't sound convincing. "Yes, it is. You didn't mention me in any of the speeches. You pulled me out of the family photos. You introduced me as staff to the wedding coordinator after I spent 3 weeks making that cake for free. You offered to do that because you asked me to, because I thought—" She stopped, took a breath. "I thought if I did everything perfectly, you'd finally see me. But you won't. You never will." "Zara, you're being unreasonable." "No, she's not," Minjun said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He'd been silent until now, standing slightly behind Zara, but the weight of his presence was impossible to ignore. "Excuse me?" her father said. "She's not being unreasonable. She's being honest, which is something none of you have been with her." "Who exactly are you?" Marcus asked. "Someone who sees her value, which is more than any of you do." The room went very quiet. "I think you should leave," her mother said, voice cold. "We're both leaving," Minjun said, "as soon as Zara says what she came here to say." Everyone looked at her, waiting, the same way they'd always waited, expecting her to apologize, to smooth things over, to make everything okay, but she was done making things okay. "I'm not coming back," she said. Her mother blinked. "What?" "I'm done with all of this, with trying to earn something you're never going to give me." She looked at Emily. "I'm happy you got married. I hope your life is everything you wanted, but I'm not doing this anymore." "Doing what?" Emily asked, voice small. "Pretending we're a family." The words hung in the air like smoke. Her father stood up. "Zara, you're upset. Let's talk about this when you've calmed down." "I'm not upset. I'm clear. For the first time in my life, I'm actually clear." She looked at each of them. "You don't love me. Maybe you never did. And I'm done pretending that's my fault." She turned and walked toward the door. Minjun followed. Behind them, her mother said, "If you walk out that door, you're out of this family." Zara stopped, turned back. "I've been out of this family my whole life," she said. "You just never noticed." Then she left. The car door slammed behind her with a finality that made her knees weak. Zara stood on the driveway staring at the house she'd just walked out of and waited for the regret to hit. It didn't come. Minjun was beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "You okay?" "I don't know." "That's fair." They got in the car. He started the engine but didn't pull away immediately. Just sat there, hands on the wheel, giving her time to fall apart if she needed to. She didn't fall apart. She felt hollow, scraped clean, like something had been cut out of her chest and the bleeding hadn't started yet. "Where do you want to go?" he asked. "I don't know." "My place?" She nodded because she couldn't think of anywhere else. Her apartment felt too small, too empty. Going there meant being alone with what had just happened, and she wasn't ready for that. They drove in silence. Zara watched the city pass by. Familiar streets, familiar buildings, everything exactly the same as it had been yesterday, except nothing was the same. She'd just blown up her entire family, walked away from the only people who'd known her since birth, and she had no idea what came next. Her phone started buzzing. Marcus calling. She declined it. 2 seconds later, Emily. Declined. Then her father. Declined. Block them, Minjun said. I can't. Yes, you can. You already did the hard part. This is just cleanup. She stared at the phone in her hand. He was right. Walking out had been the hard part. Everything else was just logistics. She blocked all of them. Father, mother, Emily, Marcus. One by one until the contacts list looked unfamiliar. Done, she said. Good. They pulled into his building's garage. The elevator ride up felt longer than usual. When they finally got inside the penthouse, Zara walked straight to the windows and stood there, looking out at the city. I just cut off my entire family, she said. Yes. I don't know if I can take that back. You don't want to take it back. How do you know? Because if you did, you'd be crying. You'd be calling them, apologizing, trying to fix it. He came to stand beside her. But you're not. You're just standing here, processing. He was right. She wasn't crying, wasn't panicking, just felt empty in a way that was almost peaceful. What if I made a mistake, she asked. Then you'll deal with it, but you didn't. You sound very sure. I'm sure. I've been watching you for 8 months, Zara. I know what you look like when you're making a mistake. This isn't that. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that she'd done the right thing, but the hollow feeling in her chest kept whispering that she'd just destroyed everything for nothing. I need to work, she said suddenly. What? I need to cook something. Can I use your kitchen? You don't have to ask. She moved before he could say anything else, pulling open his refrigerator, scanning the contents. Eggs, butter, cream, vegetables she couldn't name. She grabbed what she needed and started working. Minjun watched from the breakfast bar, the same place he always watched from. She fell into the rhythm of it, chopping, stirring, tasting. Her hands knew what to do even when her brain was somewhere else. She made omelets. Perfect French omelets with herbs she found in his cabinet, plated with precision she didn't need but couldn't help. 2 plates, set on the counter between them. Eat, she said. He picked up his fork. This is what you do when you're processing. Yes. Does it help? Sometimes. She took a bite of her own omelet, barely tasted it. My whole life, I thought if I just tried harder, they'd love me. If I was good enough, talented enough, successful enough. But it was never about that, was it? No? They just didn't want me, and nothing I did was going to change that. Some people aren't capable of seeing what's right in front of them, Minjun said. That's their failure, not yours. She wanted to believe that, wanted to accept that she was enough, that she'd always been enough, that the problem was them. But 28 years of being told otherwise was hard to shake. They finished eating in silence. Zara cleaned up her station out of habit, washing dishes, wiping counters. Normal tasks that made everything feel less surreal. What happens now? She asked, drying her hands on a towel. Whatever you want. That's not helpful. You just took control of your life for the first time. I'm not going to tell you what to do with it. She leaned against the counter, exhausted. I don't know what I want. Then we'll figure it out. We. Yes, we. He came around the counter, stood in front of her. You think I'm going anywhere? I think you didn't sign up for this mess. I signed up for you. The mess comes with it. Something in her chest cracked open. Not breaking exactly. More like thawing. She'd spent so long being the person who dealt with things alone, who didn't ask for help, who made herself small so she wouldn't be a burden. And here was someone telling her she didn't have to do that anymore. I don't know how to let someone help me, she said quietly. Then I'll teach you. He kissed her. Not tentative, not asking permission, just kissed her like it was the most natural thing in the world, like they hadn't been dancing around this for months. She kissed him back, let herself fall into it, into him, into the feeling of being wanted by someone who actually saw her. When they pulled apart, she was breathing hard. That was long overdue, he finished. I was going to say unexpected. Liar. She almost smiled. Almost. What are we doing? Right now? Whatever you need. Long term? We'll figure it out. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. But first you need to sleep, real sleep, not the kind where you wake up every 2 hours panicking. I don't do that. Yes, you do. I can hear you from down the hall. That's creepy. That's paying attention. He took her hand, pulled her toward the bedroom. His bedroom, not the guest room. Come on. She should have argued, should have insisted on space, on boundaries, on taking things slow. But she was too tired, too wrung out. So she followed him, climbed into his bed, and let him pull her close. Sleep, he said. I can't turn my brain off. Try anyway. She closed her eyes, focused on breathing, on the weight of his arm around her waist, on the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her back. Slowly, impossibly, she felt herself drifting. She slept for 14 hours. When she woke up, it was dark outside. Minjun was gone, but there was a note on the pillow. Meeting. Back by 8. Order whatever you want for dinner. She picked up her phone. 23 missed calls, 15 voicemails, 42 texts, all from numbers she'd blocked, now showing up as unknown. She deleted them without listening. Then she called Marcus, her former boss at the catering company. He answered on the third ring. Zara, I heard about the wedding. Word travels fast. Your mother called me, asked if I knew where you were. He paused. I told her I didn't. Was that right? Yes, thank you. You want to tell me what happened? Not really, but I do need to ask you something. Shoot. Can I pick up extra shifts this week? I need to stay busy. Zara, you're already working 40 hours. 50. I can do 50. Marcus sighed. You running from something? Just need to work. Fine. I've got a gala Thursday, corporate event Saturday. Both need pastry. Interested? Yes, send me the details. Will do. And Zara, whatever happened with your family, I hope you're okay. I will be. She hung up before he could push further, looked around the penthouse, at the designer furniture, the art on the walls, the view that cost more per month than she made in a year. She didn't belong here. She knew that. But she also didn't belong in her studio apartment, or her parents' house, or anywhere else she could think of. Maybe she didn't belong anywhere. Maybe that was the point. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Emily. I'm texting from a friend's phone. Please call me. We need to talk. Zara stared at the message. Her finger hovered over the delete button. Then she typed back. No. Another message came through immediately. Zara, please, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't know Mom and Dad were going to... You never know. That's the problem. You never notice until it's too late, and then you act surprised when I'm upset. That's not fair. Neither is being cut out of family photos at your wedding. Neither is being told to leave my childhood home at your reception. Neither is spending 3 weeks making your cake for free and not even getting a thank you. The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared. Appeared again. I did thank you, once, in passing, while you were taking selfies with your bridesmaids. You're being dramatic. Zara laughed out loud. Dramatic. The word their mother had used her entire life to dismiss anything Zara felt. I'm being honest. There's a difference. If you just apologize to Mom and Dad, we can fix this. I'm not apologizing. Zara, I'm done, Emily. I'm done trying to fit into a family that doesn't want me. I'm done shrinking myself so you all feel comfortable. I'm just done. She blocked the number before Emily could respond. Then she blocked the next 3 unknown numbers that texted her, all saying variations of the same thing. Apologize. Come home. Stop being dramatic. None of them asked if she was okay. None of them asked what they'd done wrong. They just wanted her to fix it the way she always fixed things. Not this time. Minjin came home at 8:15 carrying takeout bags that smelled like Thai food. You're awake, he said, for about an hour. How do you feel? Numb, angry, relieved, all of it at once. That's normal. He set the bags on the counter, started unpacking containers. Your family tried to contact you? 23 times. I blocked them all. Good. They ate on the couch, some action movie playing on the TV that neither of them watched. Zara pushed pad thai around her plate, not hungry but eating anyway because Minjun was watching. I picked up extra shifts this week, she said. Why? Because I need to work. You need to process what just happened. I'll process while I work. He set down his fork. Zara. What? You don't have to run yourself into the ground to prove you're worth something. You already are. I'm not trying to prove anything. I just need to stay busy. That's the same thing. She put down her own fork, suddenly irritated. Not everyone deals with things by sitting around talking about their feelings. I'm not asking you to sit around. I'm asking you to take a breath. I'm fine. You're not fine. You just cut off your entire family. That's not something you bounce back from in a day. What do you want me to do? Cry about it? Have a breakdown? I'm handling it. By working 50-hour weeks and pretending nothing happened? It's better than falling apart. Is it? He turned to face her fully. Because from where I'm sitting, you're doing exactly what you've always done. Pushing down what you feel, staying busy so you don't have to think about it. That's not healing, that's avoiding. You've known me for 8 months. Don't pretend you understand how I work. I understand that you're scared. I understand that you've spent your whole life being told your feelings don't matter, so now you don't know how to let yourself feel them. That's not... She stopped. Because he was right, and they both knew it. I'm not trying to fix you, Minjun said, softer now. I'm just trying to make sure you don't destroy yourself in the process of putting yourself back together. Zara looked away, throat tight. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let someone care about me without thinking I have to earn it. I know, but you're going to learn. She wanted to argue more, wanted to push back, insist she was fine, build her walls back up. But she was tired, so tired of fighting, of pretending, of holding everything together by herself. Okay, she said finally. Okay? I'll try to not work myself to death, to actually deal with this. She looked at him. But I'm still taking those shifts this week. I need the money. Why? Because I have rent to pay. And if I'm going to... She paused, not sure how to say what came next. If I'm going to rebuild my life, I need to be able to support myself. You can stay here. Minjun, I'm serious. Stay here as long as you need. I can't do that. Why not? Because we haven't even... She gestured vaguely between them. What are we doing here? What do you want to be doing? That's not an answer. Yes, it is. I told you what I want. I want you. Now, you tell me what you want. Zara's heart was pounding. This was the moment where she could keep pretending, keep hedging, keep one foot out the door in case everything fell apart. Or she could be honest. I want this, she said quietly. You, this, whatever this is. But I'm scared. Of what? Of it not being real. Of waking up one day and realizing you don't actually want me, you just felt sorry for me. I don't do pity, Minjun said, and I don't do temporary. When I commit to something, I'm all in. He reached over, took her hand. I'm all in with you. Have been for a while. Why? Because you're you. Because you're talented and stubborn and too hard on yourself. Because every time I watch you work, I see someone who should own the world, but has been convinced she doesn't deserve to. He squeezed her hand. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I have to perform. I can just be. She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to accept that someone could want her without conditions, without expectations, without her having to prove she was worth the effort. I'm a mess, she said. I know. I'm going to need time to figure out who I am without them. I know. And I'm probably going to push you away when things get hard because that's what I do. I know. I'll push back. She almost smiled. You're really not going anywhere? Not unless you tell me to. And if I do, then I'll give you space. But I'll still be here when you're ready to come back. This time she did smile. Small, tentative, but real. You're annoyingly patient. I prefer strategically persistent. That's worse. Probably. They sat there in comfortable silence, hands linked, the movie still playing in the background. For the first time since the wedding, Zara felt like she could breathe. Thank you, she said after a while. For what? For showing up. At the wedding. At my parents' house. For not letting me do this alone. Always, he said, and she believed him. The next few days passed in a blur. Zara worked her shifts, came home to Minjun's penthouse, and tried to figure out what normal looked like now. It was strange living with someone else, even temporarily. Strange having someone notice when she skipped meals, when she stayed up too late, when she was pushing herself too hard. Strange, but not bad. Thursday's gala went smoothly. She made 200 chocolate tarts, each one perfect, each one exactly the same. Mechanical work that kept her hands busy and her mind quiet. Marcus pulled her aside during cleanup. You doing okay? He asked. Why does everyone keep asking me that? Because you look like you haven't slept in a week, and you've been working like someone's chasing you. I'm fine. Zara, I said I'm fine. She softened her tone. I just need to stay busy right now. Work helps. He studied her for a moment. Your mom called me again. Zara's hand stilled on the tray she was cleaning. What did she say? Asked if I'd seen you. Said you weren't returning their calls. He paused. Said something about you making a scene at your sister's wedding. That's not what happened. I figured your mom's not exactly known for her accurate recounting of events. That surprised a laugh out of her. No, she's not. You want to talk about it? Not really. Fair enough, but if you need anything, time off, someone to vent to, whatever, let me know. Thanks, Marcus. She finished cleaning and left. Minjun picked her up outside like he'd been doing all week. He didn't ask how work went, just drove her home. His home, but increasingly it was starting to feel like hers too. And ordered dinner. Saturday's corporate event was bigger. 400 guests, a dessert bar that took her and 2 other pastry chefs 6 hours to set up. She was plating the final tray when she saw them. Her parents, standing near the bar, talking to someone in a suit. She froze. Minjun had told her the event was for a tech company, something about a product launch. He hadn't mentioned her parents would be there. Unless he didn't know. Her mother turned, scanning the room. Their eyes met. Zara looked away fast, focused on her work. But her hands were shaking now, making it hard to hold the piping bag steady. Marcus appeared at her elbow. You okay? Fine. Zara, I'm fine. Just let me finish this. She finished the tray with hands that wouldn't stop trembling, set it on the dessert bar, stepped back. Her mother was moving toward her now, weaving through the crowd. Zara looked around frantically. The kitchen was behind her, but that meant going past her mother. The exit was across the room, too far. She was trapped. Her mother reached her. Zara, we need to talk. I'm working. This will only take a minute. I don't have a minute. Zara, please. You're being unreasonable. People were starting to stare. Zara felt the weight of their attention, felt her chest tightening. Leave, she said quietly. Not until you listen. She said leave, Minjun's voice, cold and sharp. He appeared from somewhere in the crowd, positioned himself between Zara and her mother. This is a private event. If you're not on the guest list, you need to go. Zara's mother looked at him, then passed him to Zara. You brought your boyfriend to handle your problems? No, I brought myself. He's just making sure you understand the words coming out of my mouth. Zara stepped forward, hands still shaking but voice steady. I meant what I said, I'm done. Stop calling me. Stop texting. Stop showing up places I'm working. We're your family. You stopped being my family when you told me I didn't matter, when you cut me out of every photo, when you treated me like I was invisible. She took a breath. I'm done trying to convince you to love me. I'm done making myself small so you feel bigger. I'm just done. Her mother's face went tight. You'll regret this. No, I won't. Because for the first time in my life, I actually feel like I matter. She looked past her mother to where her father was watching, expression unreadable. You taught me to believe I was never good enough. But you were wrong. I was always good enough. You just couldn't see it. She turned and walked into the kitchen. Minjun followed, leaving her mother standing alone in the middle of the event. In the kitchen, Zara's legs gave out. She sat hard on a stool, breathing too fast. Hey! Minjun crouched in front of her. Look at me. Breathe. I can't. Yes, you can. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Come on. She followed his instructions, focused on breathing until her heart rate slowed. Marcus appeared with a glass of water, set it in her hands without a word. Thank you, she whispered. She gone? Marcus asked Minjun. I'll make sure of it. Minjun left. Zara sat there, water glass shaking in her hands, and tried not to fall apart. Marcus pulled up a stool next to her. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Which part? All of it. Your family... He paused, choosing words carefully. They've never treated you right. I've seen it for years. The way they talk to you, about you. You deserved better. Everyone says that, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I was the problem. Zara, look at me. She did. You're one of the most talented pastry chefs I've ever worked with. You're reliable, creative, professional. The only problem is that you've spent your whole life believing you're not good enough because that's what they told you. But it was never true. She wanted to believe him, wanted to accept that she wasn't broken, wasn't too much, wasn't the failure her family made her feel like. What if I can't do this? she asked quietly. What if I can't be the person everyone thinks I should be? Then be whoever you are. That's enough. Minjin came back. They're gone. Security escorted them out. You had my parents escorted out? They were harassing staff. That's grounds for removal. He looked at Marcus. She okay to finish the shift? No, Marcus said. I'm sending her home. Take the rest of the weekend. Paid. I don't need... Not a request. Go home. Rest. Come back Monday if you're ready. Zara wanted to argue, but she was exhausted, wrung out, done. Okay. Minjin drove her back to the penthouse. She stared out the window the whole way, not talking, not crying, just processing. You did good tonight, he said. I had a panic attack in a kitchen. After standing up to your mother in front of 100 people, that's progress. It doesn't feel like progress. It is, trust me. Back at the penthouse, Zara went straight to bed, climbed under the covers fully clothed, turned her face to the wall. She heard Minjun moving around, drawers opening, water running, the quiet sounds of him getting ready for bed. The mattress dipped as he climbed in beside her. You want to talk about it? He asked. No. You want me to leave you alone? She thought about it. Then, no. He moved closer, pulled her against his chest. Then I'm staying. She let herself melt into him, let herself be held, let herself feel everything she'd been pushing down all week. The anger, the hurt, the grief for a family she'd never really had. It shouldn't hurt this much, she said into the darkness. Losing people who never loved me anyway. That's exactly why it hurts. I keep waiting for it to get easier. It will, just not yet. She closed her eyes. Promise? Promise. She fell asleep like that, wrapped in his arms, and for the first time since the wedding, she didn't dream about failing. The weekend passed in a haze of sleep and silence. Zara woke up Monday morning feeling like someone had wrung her out and left her to dry. Minjun was already up, working at the dining table with his laptop and a cup of coffee that had probably gone cold an hour ago. You're up early, she said. He looked over. Meetings in Tokyo, time zones. She poured herself coffee, leaned against the counter. I should probably go back to my apartment today. Why? Because I can't live here forever. You can live here as long as you want. Minjun, I'm serious. You think I'm going to kick you out? No, but... She stopped, trying to find the right words. I need to figure out what my life looks like now, and I can't do that if I'm hiding in your penthouse. You're not hiding, you're regrouping. It's been almost 2 weeks. So? So I need to start rebuilding, get back to my apartment, figure out my finances, actually deal with everything instead of pretending it didn't happen. Minjun closed his laptop, gave her his full attention. What do you need? I don't know yet, but I need to figure it out myself. He was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, but you're not doing it alone. I have to... No, you don't. That's the whole point. He stood, came over to where she was standing. You've been alone your whole life. You don't have to be anymore. Something in her chest tightened. She'd spent so long believing she had to handle everything herself that asking for help meant weakness, that needing someone made her a burden. Unlearning that was harder than she'd expected. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Then we'll figure it out together. He kissed her forehead. But first you need to eat something. You've barely touched food in 3 days. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. She made eggs because it was easy, because the motion of cooking settled something in her brain. Minjun watched from his usual spot at the breakfast bar, asking occasional questions about technique that had nothing to do with eggs and everything to do with keeping her talking. Marcus called yesterday, he said while she was plating. Offered you a promotion. Zara froze. What? Head pastry chef. Full-time salary, benefits, creative control over the dessert menu for all events. When did he call you? Saturday night, after the incident with your parents. He wanted to make sure you were okay and figured you wouldn't answer if he called directly. She set down the spatula. He's not offering me a promotion because he feels sorry for me, is he? He's offering because you're good at what you do, and he's tired of watching you waste your talent on hourly work. That's not his words, not mine. Zara sat down hard. A promotion, salary, benefits. It was everything she'd been working toward for years, everything she'd told herself would prove she'd made the right choice, that pastry wasn't a failure, that she was building something real. I don't know if I'm ready, she said quietly. Why not? Because everything's a mess right now. My family, my life, everything. What if I take the job and screw it up? What if you take the job and you're great at it? That feels less likely. Minjun reached across the counter, took her hand. You're scared. I get it. But you've been playing it safe your whole life, taking jobs that don't challenge you because you're terrified of failing. Maybe it's time to stop doing that. Easy for you to say. You're not the one whose entire family thinks she's a disappointment. No. But I'm the one who's watched you create things that made people stop mid-conversation to figure out what they were tasting. Who's seen you spend 6 hours perfecting a single technique because you refuse to accept anything less than perfect? You're not a disappointment, Zara. You're just surrounded by people who couldn't see what they had. She wanted to believe him, wanted to accept that she was talented, that she deserved this opportunity, that she wasn't going to fail the moment things got hard. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. But Marcus needs an answer by Friday. That's 4 days. I know. She pulled her hand back, picked up her fork. The eggs were getting cold, but she ate anyway because Minjun was watching, and she knew he wouldn't let it go if she didn't. I need to go back to my apartment, she said. Today. Just to check on things. Make sure it hasn't burned down. I'll come with you. You don't have to, I'm coming. They drove to her apartment in Queens, a 40-minute trip that felt longer. Zara watched the neighborhoods change, from the polished wealth of Manhattan to the practical sprawl of outer boroughs. Her building looked exactly the same. 3 stories, brick facade, the front door that stuck unless you knew the trick. Inside, her studio apartment was stuffy and warm. Mail piled under the slot, plants dying on the windowsill, everything exactly as she'd left it 2 weeks ago, when life had been different. Minjun looked around, at the twin bed pushed against the wall, the kitchenette with 2 burners and a mini fridge, the bathroom door that didn't quite close all the way. He didn't say anything, but she could feel him cataloging the differences between here and his penthouse. It's not much, she said. It's yours. She gathered her mail, watered her plants, opened windows to air the place out. Minjun sat on the bed, the only place to sit besides the floor, and watched. You could bring some things back to my place, he said. Clothes, books, whatever you need. I'm not moving in with you. Why not? Because we've been together for 2 weeks. That's insane, we've been together for 8 months. We just weren't calling it that. He wasn't wrong. But admitting that felt dangerous, like she was jumping into something without looking the way she'd never let herself do before. I need time, she said. Okay. And space to figure out who I am without them. Okay. And I can't be the person who just moves in with a guy because her life fell apart. I need to do this on my own first. Zara. He stood, came over to where she was standing by the window. I'm not asking you to give up your independence. I'm just saying you don't have to split your time between 2 places when one of them has better water pressure and a stove that works. She almost smiled. That's your sales pitch? Is it working? Maybe. He kissed her, slow and careful. When he pulled back, she was breathing harder. Think about it, he said. The apartment, the job, all of it. But stop thinking you have to do everything alone to prove you're strong enough. You're already strong enough. You've been strong enough your whole life. She nodded because she couldn't find words. They spent the afternoon at her apartment. Zara sorting through mail, returning phone calls, handling the logistics of a life that had been on pause. Bills to pay? Appointments to reschedule. A landlord who wanted to know if she was renewing her lease next month. She didn't know. Didn't know if she wanted to stay here, in this studio that had felt like freedom when she first moved in, but now just felt small. Didn't know if moving in with Minjun was running toward something or running away from having to deal with things herself. What would you do? She asked him. If you were me. I'm not you. Hypothetically. He thought about it. I'd ask myself what I wanted my life to look like in a year. Then I'd make choices that moved me toward that instead of away from what I'm scared of. That's annoyingly wise. I have my moments. She looked around the apartment. I don't know what I want my life to look like. Then start smaller. What do you want tomorrow to look like? Tomorrow. She could handle tomorrow. I want to cook something complicated, something that takes all day and makes me remember why I do this. Then do that. At your place? Wherever you want. She wanted his kitchen, wanted the space, the equipment. The way cooking there felt like stepping into the version of herself she'd always wanted to be. But admitting that felt like giving up on the idea that she could make it on her own. I'm scared, she said quietly. Of what? Of needing you too much. Of getting used to your kitchen, your apartment, your life, and losing myself in it. You won't. How do you know? Because I'm not your family. I'm not trying to make you smaller. I'm trying to give you room to grow. He paused. And because you're too stubborn to lose yourself in anything. It's one of my favorite things about you. This time she did smile. Small, tentative, but real. They left her apartment as the sun was setting. Zara took a bag of clothes, some books, her good knives. Not moving in, exactly. Just bringing pieces of herself to a place that was starting to feel like home. Back at the penthouse, she cooked. Braised short ribs that took 6 hours, roasted vegetables with a honey glaze, fresh pasta from scratch. Minjun worked at the dining table, occasionally looking up to watch her move through his kitchen like she belonged there. They ate late, too tired to talk much. After dinner, Zara cleaned up while Minjun took a call in his office. She was drying the last pan when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Zara, it's Aunt Linda. Her mother's sister, the one who always asked too many questions at family gatherings and made passive-aggressive comments about Zara's weight. How did you get this number? Your mother gave it to me, before you blocked everyone. Linda's voice was sharp. I'm calling because someone needs to talk sense into you. I'm hanging up. Your mother is devastated. Do you know that? She cries every day about what you said. Good. Excuse me? I said good. Maybe if she cries enough, she'll understand how I felt every day of my life in that family. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being honest. And if you called to make me feel guilty, it's not going to work. Zara's hand was shaking, but her voice stayed steady. I'm done feeling guilty for existing. Tell my mother if she wants to talk to me, she can apologize. Until then, lose this number. She hung up, blocked the number, stood there shaking. Minjun appeared in the doorway. Who was that? My aunt, calling to tell me I'm dramatic and my mother's upset. What did you say? That she can apologize if she wants to talk to me. Good. Is it? Because I feel like I'm the villain in everyone's story right now. Like I'm the one who destroyed everything. You're not the villain. You're just the first one brave enough to stop pretending. She wanted to believe that, but the guilt was heavy, persistent, whispering that maybe she'd overreacted. Maybe she'd been too harsh. Maybe she should have tried harder to make things work. What if I'm wrong? She asked. What if I cut them off and realize I made a mistake? Then you'll deal with it. But you're not wrong, Zara. You know you're not. He was right. She did know. But knowing and accepting were different things. That night she couldn't sleep. Lay in bed next to Minjun, staring at the ceiling, mind racing. She kept thinking about the job offer, about her apartment, about the way her life had split into before and after. Before, when she'd had a family who didn't love her but at least existed. After, when she had nothing except herself and a man who might not stay once he realized how broken she really was. Stop spiraling, Minjun said into the darkness. I'm not spiraling. Yes, you are. I can hear you thinking from here. That's not a thing. Tell me what you're worried about. She was quiet for a moment, then, what happens when you get tired of me? I won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Minjun, I've known what I wanted since the first time I saw you plate that chocolate tart. It's taken you 8 months to catch up. I'm not going anywhere just because things got complicated. What if I'm too much work? You're not work, you're... He paused, choosing words. You're the first person in years who's made me want something more than business. Who's made me remember why I worked this hard in the first place? You think I'm letting that go? She turned to face him in the dark. I don't understand why you want this. Want me. Because you're brilliant, because you're real, because every time I watch you create something, I see someone who's supposed to be running the world, but has been convinced she should stay small. He touched her face. Because when I'm with you, I'm not performing. I'm just here. That's a lot of pressure. It's not pressure. It's the truth. She kissed him because she didn't know what else to do. Let herself fall into it, into him, into the feeling of being wanted by someone who actually saw her. When they pulled apart, she said, I think I want to take the job. Yeah? Yeah, it scares the hell out of me. But I think that means I should do it. Call Marcus tomorrow. I will. She paused. And I think I want to bring more of my stuff here. Not all of it. Not yet. But more. Okay? And I need you to promise me something. What? If you get tired of this, of me, of the mess, of all of it, tell me. Don't just disappear. Don't make me guess. I promise. But you have to promise me the same thing. I promise. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, and for the first time in weeks, Zara didn't wake up panicking. The next morning, she called Marcus. "I'll take it," she said when he answered. "The promotion?" "Yes." "If the offer's still open." "It's open. When can you start?" "Next Monday?" "Perfect. Come in Friday to sign paperwork and we'll talk about your vision for the dessert program." "Marcus?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." "You're talented, Zara. It's about time someone told you that enough times for it to stick." She hung up feeling lighter, like maybe she was building something real, something that was hers, something that couldn't be taken away by people who'd never valued it in the first place. Minjin took her to lunch to celebrate, someplace in Soho with white tablecloths and wine she couldn't pronounce. Halfway through the meal, her phone buzzed. "Emily, video call." Zara stared at the screen. Minjun looked over, saw the name. "You don't have to answer," he said. "I know." But she did anyway. Hit accept before she could talk herself out of it. Emily's face filled the screen. She looked tired, makeup-free, hair in a messy bun. Not the polished version from the wedding. "Zara, thank you for answering." "What do you want, Emily?" "I want to apologize." That stopped Zara cold. "What?" "I'm sorry for the wedding, for everything. You were right. We treated you terribly and Her voice cracked. "I didn't see it until you were gone." Zara's throat went tight. "Why now?" "Because Daniel pointed it out. My husband. He asked me why you weren't in our wedding photos and I said you were being difficult. And he said..." She took a shaky breath. "He said it sounded like we were the difficult ones. He made me watch back all the footage from the wedding. Made me see how we treated you. And Zara, I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix it." "I know. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what we did. What I did. And I'm going to do better." "Are you?" Zara heard the edge in her own voice. "Or are you going to go back to Mom and Dad and forget we had this conversation the moment it gets uncomfortable?" "I don't know," Emily said honestly. "I want to say I'll be different, but I don't know if I can stand up to them the way you did. I'm not that brave." "It's not about being brave. It's about deciding you matter more than their approval." "I'm not there yet, but I'm trying." Emily paused. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "Are you okay? Really okay?" It was the first time anyone in her family had asked that question. The first time someone had cared about the answer. "I'm getting there," Zara said carefully. "It's hard, but I'm figuring it out. I'm glad, and I'm sorry I wasn't the sister you needed. You deserved better." "Yeah, I did." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Emily said, "I should go, but Zara, thank you for answering, and if you ever want to talk, I'm here." "Okay." "I mean it." "I know." The call ended. Zara set down her phone, stared at her half-eaten lunch. "You okay?" Minjun asked. "I don't know. That was unexpected." "Do you believe her?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks she'll go back to being exactly who she was the moment this gets hard. Both can be true. People can want to change and still fail at it. Very comforting." "I'm not trying to be comforting. I'm trying to be honest." He reached across the table, took her hand. "You get to decide how much grace you give her, how much you let her back in. You don't owe her anything just because she apologized." "I know. But it was hard. Hard to hold boundaries when someone finally gave you what you'd been begging for your whole life. Hard to stay angry when the person who hurt you finally admitted they were wrong." They finished lunch without talking about it more. Went back to the penthouse, where Zara spent the afternoon cooking again. More braising, more vegetables, more work that kept her hands busy and her brain quiet. That evening, Minjun's phone rang. He answered, listened for a moment, then looked at Zara. "It's for you," he said. "Who is it?" "Someone from Sterling Magazine." Sterling Magazine, one of the biggest food publications in the country. Zara's hands were covered in flour, but she took the phone anyway. "Hello? Zara Williams? This is Jennifer Chen from Sterling. I'm calling because we're doing a feature on rising pastry talent in New York, and your name came up in our research. Would you be interested in being interviewed?" Zara's brain short-circuited. What? "We heard about your work through several industry contacts. Marcus Reeves spoke very highly of you. We'd love to include you in our spring issue if you're interested." I'm not... Think about it. I'll email you the details. But we'd love to have you. The call ended. Zara stood there, phone in her hand, flower on her shirt, completely frozen. What did they say? Minjun asked. They want to interview me. For a feature. On rising pastry talent. And? And I don't know if I should do it. Why not? Because what if I mess it up? What if they interview me and realize I'm not actually that talented, I've just been lucky? Zara. What? Stop it. You're talented. Marcus knows it. I know it. Sterling Magazine knows it. The only person who doesn't seem to know it is you. That's not... Yes, it is. And you need to decide right now if you're going to keep letting your family's voice in your head or if you're going to start believing the people who actually see you. She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons why she wasn't ready, why this was too much, why she'd definitely fail. But standing there in his kitchen, covered in flour, she realized he was right. She'd been letting their voices run her life for 28 years. Maybe it was time to stop. Okay, she said. Okay? I'll do it. The interview, the feature, all of it. Minjun smiled. Good. You're very pleased with yourself right now. Little bit. She threw a dish towel at him. He caught it, laughing, and she felt something in her chest loosen. Not fixed, not healed, but lighter. Like maybe she was finally learning how to take up space without apologizing for it. That night, they had dinner on the couch. Nothing fancy, just pasta and wine and a documentary about French pastry that Minjun had queued up. Halfway through, Zara said, I think I'm ready. For what? To really move in, not just bringing some clothes, actually moving in. He looked at her. You sure? No. But I don't think I'll ever be completely sure about anything, so I'm choosing this anyway. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What did you want me to say? I don't know. Something more dramatic. You're usually more dramatic. I'm saving my dramatic for when you realize you left a spatula at your apartment and have a breakdown about needing to go back for it. I won't do that. You absolutely will. She threw a pillow at him. He caught that too, still smiling, and she thought maybe this was what home was supposed to feel like. Not perfect, not smooth, but real. Messy and complicated, and worth fighting for. They finished the documentary, cleaned up dinner, got ready for bed in that comfortable silence that came from actually knowing someone, not just performing for them. Thank you, Zara said as they were climbing into bed. For what? For seeing me, even when I couldn't see myself. Always, he said. And she believed him. Moving happened in pieces over the next 2 weeks. Zara packed her studio apartment box by box, separating what mattered from what she'd been holding onto out of habit. The bridesmaid dress went in the trash. Photos of her family went in a box she labeled later and shoved in the back of Minjun's storage closet. Her knives, her cookbooks, the kitchen tools she'd collected over years, those came with her. Her landlord barely blinked when she gave notice. You find a better place? Something like that. Good for you. You deserved better than this dump anyway. She hadn't thought of it as a dump. It had been freedom when she first moved in. Her own space, her own rules, proof she could make it on her own. But standing there with half her life in boxes, she realized it had also been lonely. A place to exist, not a place to live. Minjun hired movers even though she didn't have enough stuff to justify it. You're not carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs, he'd said when she argued. Let someone else do the heavy lifting for once. Learning to let people help was harder than she'd expected. Every time Minjun did something for her, hired movers, paid for dinner, picked her up from work, some part of her brain whispered that she was becoming dependent, that she was proving her family right about not being able to make it on her own. But then she'd remember what he'd said. You've been alone your whole life. You don't have to be anymore. So she tried. Let the movers carry her boxes. Let Minjun make space in his closet. Let herself believe that accepting help didn't make her weak. Her first day as head pastry chef was terrifying. Marcus introduced her to the kitchen staff, 3 sous chefs who'd been there longer than her, 2 prep cooks who looked skeptical, a dishwasher who barely acknowledged her existence. She was 28 years old, younger than most of them, and suddenly responsible for every dessert that left the kitchen. Any questions? Marcus asked after the introductions. Everyone shook their heads. Good. Zara's in charge of pastry now. What she says goes. If you have a problem with that, come talk to me. Otherwise, get to work. He left. Zara stood there, acutely aware that every person in the room was watching her, waiting to see if she'd crack. Okay, she said, voice steadier than she felt. I know this is weird. Most of you have been here longer than me, but I'm not trying to change everything overnight. I just want to make the best desserts we can. So tell me, What's working right now? What isn't? Silence. Then one of the sous chefs, a woman named Carmen with 20 years of experience and zero patience for nonsense, said, "The chocolate tart. Recipe's solid, but the plating's boring." Agreed. What would you do differently? Carmen blinked like she hadn't expected to be asked. Maybe some texture, candied nuts or something. Give it contrast. That's good. Let's test it this week. Zara looked around. Anyone else? Another sous chef raised his hand tentatively. The lemon bars, they're too sweet. How would you fix them? More acid, maybe some salt. Let's try it. By the end of that first meeting, people were actually talking, suggesting ideas, looking at her like maybe she wasn't going to be a disaster after all. Carmen pulled her aside after. "You did good. Most new managers come in trying to prove they're in charge. You just asked questions." "I don't know what I'm doing yet," Zara admitted. "None of us did at first, but you'll figure it out." Carmen paused. "And for what it's worth, your chocolate work is incredible. Marcus showed us photos from some of your private events. You're better than you think you are." Zara went home that night exhausted but lighter. Minjun was working late, so she had the penthouse to herself. She made dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta, and ate it standing at the kitchen counter, looking out at the city. Her phone buzzed. "Emily. How was your first day?" Zara stared at the message. They'd been texting sporadically since Emily's apology. Short conversations, carefully neutral. Nothing deep. Nothing that required Zara to trust her sister wouldn't revert to old patterns the moment things got uncomfortable. "Good. Scary, but good. I'm proud of you." 3 words that shouldn't have hit as hard as they did. Zara set down her phone before she could respond, throat tight. She wanted to believe Emily meant it, wanted to accept this version of her sister who apologized and said the right things and actually seemed to care. But part of her was still waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Emily to choose their parents over her, for everything to go back to the way it had always been. "Thanks," she typed finally. "How are you?" "Okay. Mom's still not speaking to me. Why?" "Because I told her she was wrong. About you. About how she treated you. She didn't take it well." Zara's chest tightened. "You told her that?" "Yeah. After our call, I couldn't stop thinking about everything you said, so I called her and told her she owed you an apology. She hung up on me. We haven't talked since." "Emily, I know. I know I should have done it years ago. I should have stood up for you every time they made you feel small. I'm sorry I didn't." Zara sat down hard on the couch. This was new. This version of Emily who chose honesty over keeping the peace, who risked their mother's approval to do the right thing. She didn't know what to do with it. "Are you okay?" she typed. "Not really, but I will be. Daniel's helping me work through it. He keeps reminding me that just because they're family doesn't mean they're right. He sounds smart. He is. You'd like him. Maybe I'll meet him sometime. I'd like that." The conversation ended there. Zara sat with her phone in her lap, trying to process what had just happened. Emily had stood up to their mother, had chosen Zara over keeping the family peace. It didn't fix everything, didn't erase years of being invisible, of being made to feel like she didn't matter. But it was something. A start. Minjun came home around 10, loosening his tie as he walked through the door. "You're up late. Couldn't sleep. How was day 1? "Better than I expected." "How was your meeting?" "Long, boring, the usual." He sat next to her on the couch. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." "Zara." Emily stood up to my mother, told her she was wrong about me. "And?" "And now my mother's not speaking to her." "Good." "Minjun, I'm serious. Your mother doesn't get to punish people for telling the truth. Emily did the right thing. She shouldn't have to apologize for it." "I know, but I feel guilty. Like I'm the reason their relationship is falling apart." "You're not the reason. Your mother is. She's the one who can't handle being told she's wrong. That's on her, not you." He pulled her closer. "Stop taking responsibility for other people's bad behavior. That's easier said than done." "I know, but you're getting better at it." He was right. A month ago, she would have called Emily immediately, would have told her to apologize to their mother, would have tried to fix everything so nobody had to be uncomfortable. But she hadn't done any of that. Hadn't tried to smooth things over or make herself smaller so everyone else could feel better. Progress, maybe, or just exhaustion. She couldn't tell the difference anymore. The Sterling magazine interview happened 2 weeks later. Jennifer Chen met her at the catering company kitchen, camera crew in tow. Zara had spent 3 days planning what to make. Something impressive but achievable. Something that showed her skill without looking like she was showing off. She settled on a deconstructed black forest cake. Chocolate genoise, cherry compote, kirsch cream, dark chocolate shards. Every component plated separately, balanced, intentional. Jennifer watched her work, asked questions about technique and training and what inspired her. The questions Zara had been answering in her head for years, but never out loud. "Tell me about your family," Jennifer said at one point. "Did they support your decision to become a pastry chef?" Zara's hand stilled on the piping bag she was holding. This was the moment where she was supposed to lie. Where she was supposed to say yes, of course, they'd always believed in her. But she was tired of lying. "No," she said. "They wanted me to be a lawyer. Thought pastry was a waste of my potential." She continued piping, focusing on the rhythm of it. "For a long time, I believed them. Thought if they didn't see value in what I did, maybe there wasn't any. Took me a while to realize that was their failure, not mine." "When did you realize that?" "Recently. Like very recently." She set down the piping bag, looked directly at the camera. "I think a lot of people spend their whole lives trying to earn approval from people who will never give it. And at some point, you have to decide if you're going to keep chasing something that doesn't exist, or if you're going to believe in yourself enough to walk away." Jennifer smiled. "That's powerful." "It's true." The interview lasted 3 hours. By the end, Zara had made 4 different desserts, answered what felt like 100 questions, and shared more about herself than she'd intended. When the crew finally packed up, she was exhausted. Marcus appeared from his office. "That looked good." "You were watching?" "Of course I was watching. You just gave Sterling Magazine a masterclass in pastry technique and personal growth. That's going to be incredible publicity for us." "I didn't think about that." "I know. That's what makes it good." He paused. "You did great, Zara. Really great." She went home that night feeling strange. Not bad exactly, just exposed. Like she'd cracked herself open on camera, and now everyone would see all the messy parts she usually kept hidden. Minjun was waiting when she got back. "How'd it go?" "I don't know. I think I said too much." "About what?" "About my family, about why I do this, about everything." She dropped her bag by the door. "What if it comes out and they see it?" "Then they see it. So what?" "So they'll know. They'll know that I talked about them publicly. They'll—" She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. "They'll be angry." "And?" "And nothing. They'd be angry, and it wouldn't matter because she'd already cut them off. They couldn't hurt her anymore unless she let them back in." "You're allowed to tell your story," Minjun said, "even if it makes them uncomfortable, especially if it makes them uncomfortable." She wanted to argue, wanted to fall back into the familiar pattern of making herself smaller so nobody else had to be upset. But she didn't. Just nodded and let herself believe that maybe he was right. The article came out 3 weeks later. Full spread in Sterling Magazine, photos of her desserts, quotes about technique and creativity, and finding your voice. And at the end, the part she'd been dreading, her comments about her family. "For a long time I believed them. Thought if they didn't see value in what I did, maybe there wasn't any. Took me a while to realize that was their failure, not mine." The quote was printed in bold, right there on the page for everyone to see. Her phone exploded, texts from people she hadn't heard from in years. "Congratulations, you're inspiring. This is beautiful." Even Carmen from work sent a message, saw the article, "You're brave as hell," but nothing from her parents, nothing from Marcus, her brother. Just silence. Emily called that afternoon. "I saw the article," she said when Zara answered. "And?" "And it's incredible. You look amazing. Your work looks amazing. Everything about it is perfect. But Mom saw it." Zara's stomach dropped. "What did she say?" "Nothing to me. But Dad called. Said you humiliated them. Said everyone they know is going to read that and think they're terrible parents." "They are terrible parents." "I know, but they don't see it that way. They think you aired private family business to make yourself look good." "I didn't air anything. I told the truth." "I know that too. And I told Dad that." "He didn't want to hear it." Emily paused. "I just wanted to warn you. They're angry, really angry." "Let them be angry." Zara said, "I'm serious. I'm done caring if they're angry. I'm done changing my story to make them comfortable. They can read the article or not. They can be angry or not. It doesn't change anything." You've gotten brave, Emily said, something like admiration in her voice. No, I just stopped being scared. After they hung up, Zara sat with her phone in her lap, waiting to feel guilty, waiting for the familiar panic that came from upsetting her parents. It didn't come. Instead, she felt light, free, like she'd been carrying something heavy for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. Minjun found her on the couch an hour later. I read the article. And? And you're incredible. The photos, the quotes, all of it. I'm proud of you. My parents are angry. Good. Emily said they feel humiliated. They should feel humiliated. They treated you terribly, and now everyone knows it. Part of me feels bad. That's normal. You spent your whole life trained to feel bad for making them uncomfortable. It's going to take a while to unlearn that. He sat next to her. But you told the truth. That's all you did. If they can't handle the truth, that's their problem. She leaned against him, letting his presence ground her. When does it stop hurting? I don't know, but it gets easier. Promise? Promise. 2 months passed. Zara settled into her role as head pastry chef, stopped second-guessing every decision, started trusting that she knew what she was doing. The dessert program evolved, more creative, more intentional, more her. Carmen became an unlikely ally, someone who pushed her to be better without making her feel inadequate. The Sterling article brought attention. Food bloggers started requesting interviews. Other catering companies tried to poach her. Marcus gave her a raise and told her she was the best decision he'd made in years. She and Minjun fell into a rhythm. Not perfect. They argued sometimes, about small things like his habit of leaving coffee cups everywhere and her tendency to work too late. But it was real, messy and complicated and worth fighting for. Emily came by the penthouse one Saturday, just showed up with coffee and pastries from a bakery Zara had mentioned months ago. Is this okay? Emily asked when Zara opened the door. I should have called. It's fine. Come in. They sat at the breakfast bar, the same place where Zara had sat countless times with Minjun. Emily looked around, taking in the space, the designer furniture, the view, the life Zara had built without their family. This place is incredible, Emily said. It's Minjun's. But you live here. Yeah. Are you happy? The question caught Zara off guard. Yeah, I think I am. Good. You deserve to be happy. Emily took a sip of coffee. I wanted to tell you something. Okay. I'm going to therapy. Started 2 weeks ago, trying to work through everything with mom and dad, figure out why I let them treat you the way they did, why I participated in it. Emily, let me finish, please. Emily set down her coffee. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how we made you feel invisible. And you were right. We did. I did. And I can't fix that. Can't take it back. But I can try to be different going forward. Why now? Because Daniel asked me a question. He asked if I liked who I was around them. And I realized I didn't. That I'd been pretending for so long that I forgot what it felt like to be honest. She looked at Zara. You walking away showed me that was possible. That I could choose to be different. Zara's throat was tight. I don't know if I can trust this. Trust you. Every time I start to believe things are different, something happens, and it all goes back to the way it was. I know, and I don't blame you for that. But I'm trying, and I'm going to keep trying, even if you don't want a relationship with me right now, because you were right about everything, and I need to be better. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Zara said, I can't have the same relationship with you that we had before. I can't go back to being invisible. I don't want you to. And I need time to trust that this is real. Okay. And if you choose them over me, if it comes down to picking sides and you pick them, I'm done. For good. I understand. Zara wanted to believe her, wanted to accept this version of her sister who apologized and went to therapy and tried to do better, but trust was hard when it had been broken so many times before. We can start slow, Zara said finally. Coffee sometimes, texts. But I need you to understand that I'm not going to family events. I'm not doing holidays or birthdays or any of it, not until they apologize, really apologize. They won't, Emily said. You know they won't. I know, but that's my boundary. Okay, then we'll figure it out. Just us. Emily left an hour later. Zara stood at the window after she was gone, watching the city, trying to decide if she'd made the right choice. Letting Emily back in, even a little bit, felt risky, like she was opening a door she'd worked hard to close. But maybe that was okay. Maybe relationships didn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe she could have a sister without having a family. Maybe she could rebuild on her own terms instead of theirs. Minjun came home that evening to find her cooking. Braised lamb, roasted vegetables, some kind of grain situation she'd been experimenting with. He watched from the doorway for a moment before she noticed him. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked. "Long enough. What are we celebrating?" "Nothing. Just felt like cooking." "You always feel like cooking when you're processing something." She smiled. "Emily came by." And? "And I think maybe we're going to try to have some kind of relationship on my terms." "How do you feel about that?" "Scared, but also hopeful. Is that stupid?" "No, that's human." He came into the kitchen, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You're allowed to hope things will be different. Just protect yourself while you're doing it." "I will." They ate dinner on the balcony, the city spread out below them. Zara thought about how different her life looked now compared to 6 months ago. How she'd been trapped in a family that didn't see her, working a job that didn't challenge her, believing she wasn't good enough for anything better. And now she was here, living with someone who loved her, running a kitchen, building a career on her own terms. It wasn't perfect. She still had days where she doubted herself, where the old voices crept back in. But she was learning to recognize when she was shrinking herself, learning to take up space without apologizing, learning that she didn't have to earn love, that the right people would give it freely. "What are you thinking about?" Minjun asked. "How far I've come, how different everything is." "You did that. You know that, right? I helped, but you did the work." "I know, but I couldn't have done it alone." "You shouldn't have to do anything alone. That's the point." 3 months later, Zara got a call from a restaurant group in Manhattan. They wanted her to consult on opening a new fine dining concept, help develop the dessert menu, train their pastry team. It was the kind of opportunity she'd dreamed about for years, but never thought she'd get. She said yes. The work was challenging in ways she hadn't expected. Long hours, high stakes, a head chef who demanded perfection and didn't accept excuses. But she loved it, loved being pushed, loved creating things she'd only imagined before, loved seeing her ideas come to life on plates that people paid $200 to eat from. Marcus was supportive when she told him she'd need to scale back her hours at the catering company. "You're too talented to stay here forever. Go do the big stuff. Make us look good." Carmen threw her an unofficial goodbye party in the kitchen. Nothing fancy, just champagne and desserts everyone had made. "You're going to kill it," Carmen said. "Just don't forget about us when you're famous." "I won't." "And Zara? Thank you for showing us what it looks like when someone actually believes in themselves. Most of us needed to see that." Opening night of the new restaurant was chaos. Zara had been in the kitchen for 16 hours, making sure every dessert was perfect. The head chef was screaming at someone about plating. 2 servers had called in sick. The oven was running hot. But when the first dessert went out, a deconstructed apple tart with brown butter ice cream and caramel shards, and came back with the plate licked clean, she knew they'd done it. The reviews came out 2 weeks later, glowing. Every critic mentioned the dessert program specifically. One called it the most innovative pastry work in the city right now. Zara's phone exploded again. Congratulations from people she knew and people she didn't. Job offers from restaurants she'd admired her whole career. An email from Sterling Magazine asking if she'd be interested in a follow-up feature. And one text from a number she didn't recognize. "I saw the reviews. You were right. You were always good enough. I'm sorry I couldn't see it. Dad." She stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't an apology, not really, just an admission that she'd been right and he'd been wrong. But it was more than she'd ever gotten from him before. She showed Minjun that night. "How do you feel?" he asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to respond, to take what he's offering and try to rebuild something. And the other part? Knows that he's only reaching out because other people think I'm successful now, not because he actually understands what he did wrong. So what are you going to do?" She thought about it, about the years of being invisible, about the wedding, about standing in her parents' house and finally telling the truth, about everything she'd built since then. "Nothing," she said finally. "I'm not going to respond, because I don't need his approval anymore. I don't need any of their approval. You sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure." She deleted the text and didn't look back. A year after the wedding, Zara stood in the kitchen of the restaurant that had made her name. It was a Thursday night after service, and she was testing a new dessert, chocolate soufflé with raspberry center, something she'd been working on for weeks. Minjun was sitting at the counter watching her work. He did that sometimes now, showed up after meetings, sat quietly, just present. Not trying to fix anything or change anything, just there. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "Just thinking." "About?" "About how different you are from when I met you." She looked up. "Different how?" "You take up space now. Don't apologize for being good at what you do. Don't shrink yourself to make other people comfortable." "You taught me that." "No. You learned it. I just reminded you it was possible." She finished plating the soufflé, carried it over to him. "Try this." He took a bite. His expression shifted, surprise, pleasure, something else she couldn't name. "It's perfect," he said. "It's close. Still needs work." "Zara." "What?" "It's perfect. Accept the compliment." She smiled. "It's perfect. Better." They sat there in this quiet kitchen, sharing the dessert, and Zara thought about the journey that had brought her here. The family who couldn't see her value. The sister who was trying to do better. The man who'd believed in her before she believed in herself. The career she'd built brick by brick, despite everyone telling her it wasn't enough. None of it had been smooth. There had been breakdowns and setbacks, and days where she wanted to give up. Days where the old voices came back, telling her she wasn't good enough, would never be good enough. But she'd kept going. And somewhere along the way, she'd stopped trying to prove herself to people who would never be satisfied. She'd stopped making herself smaller. She'd started believing that she deserved to take up space. "I'm proud of you," Minjun said quietly. "For what?" "For all of it. For walking away. For rebuilding. For becoming exactly who you were supposed to be." Something in her chest cracked open. Not breaking, but expanding, making room for all the things she'd never let herself feel before. Pride, confidence, the bone-deep knowledge that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. "I'm proud of me too," she said. And she meant it. The thing about walking away from people who don't value you is that it doesn't fix everything immediately. It doesn't erase the years of damage or make the hurt disappear overnight. Some days are still hard. Some days the old voices come back, whispering that you're too much or not enough, or somehow fundamentally flawed. But what it does do is create space. Space to figure out who you are without their voices drowning you out. Space to build something new. Space to discover that you were never the problem. They just couldn't see what they had. Zara learned that home isn't where you're born or where your family lives. Home is where you're seen, where you're valued, where you can be entirely yourself without apologizing for it. She found her home, not in a place, but in the work that challenged her, in the people who believed in her, in the life she built from scratch when the old one fell apart. And every time she created something beautiful, every perfect tart, every innovative dessert, every plate that made someone stop and really taste what they were eating, she proved what she'd always known deep down, but had been too scared to believe. She was enough. She'd always been enough. She just needed to stop asking permission to take up space and claim it for herself. That was the lesson. Not that family doesn't matter, but that you get to choose who your family is. Not that success will fix everything, but that doing work you love is worth more than approval from people who will never give it. Not that you have to do everything alone, but that accepting help doesn't make you weak. The wedding that broke her had also freed her. And standing in her kitchen a year later, surrounded by the life she'd built from the rubble, Zara understood something she'd never grasped before. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away from people who make you feel small. Not because you hate them, not because you want revenge, but because you finally love yourself enough to know you deserve better. And once you walk away, once you stop chasing love from people who will never give it, something incredible happens. You find out who you are without them. And that person is worth knowing. Zara closed the restaurant that night, locked the doors behind her, and walked out into the city with Minjun beside her. The streets were quiet, the air cold, the lights casting everything in that particular glow that made New York feel like magic. "Where to?" Minjun asked. "Home," she said, and for the first time in her life, she knew exactly where that was.